Hello everyone, and welcome to Retail Archaeology and Superstition Springs Center in Mesa, Arizona. It's been almost 6 years since I did a video covering this mall, so I thought it would be a good time for an update. I didn't want to do just another walkthrough of this mall like I did almost 6 years ago, so I thought it would be fun to bring some of my old digital cameras with me and take some pictures of the mall. The two cameras I brought were my America Online Digicam from 2001 and a Sony Mavica FD71 floppy disk camera from 1998. The AOL Digicam has a resolution of 320 by 240, and the older Sony camera has a resolution double that at 640 by 480. So let's walk around and check out the mall and do some low-resolution photography. That Sparkle store is new. Originally that was a Hallmark Gold Crown store, and that was one of the ones covered in my video covering the Hallmark stores. And here's the Dillard's, which is one of the anchors that was here since the mall opened in 1990. The footage and pictures in this video are from a late Sunday afternoon, just a few hours before the mall closes, and I picked that time because I thought the lighting would be cool for the pictures with the old digital cameras. And here's some of those pictures. The one on the top left is from the Sony Mavica floppy disk camera, and the bottom right is from the AOL Digicam. I can already tell that I think I'm going to like the pictures from the Sony Mavica camera much better than the AOL Digicam. Here's some empty storefronts, and this mall does have several empty stores, but it does seem like it's doing a little bit better than it was 6 years ago. One of the things I like to take pictures of with old digital cameras is department stores. I like the way that the fronts of department stores look in pictures that are taken with old digital cameras. I think the old cameras just add a patina to the pictures that I really enjoy. This mall now seems to be a 50-50 mix of national retailers like that Hot Topic there, and then local and independent shops like the one here on the left. Here's where the Sears used to be, and this spot's been empty since 2018. This is the quietest part of the mall. This end of it feels like you're in a dead mall, and it's not helping that GameStop at all. That GameStop is one of the saddest I've ever seen. Here's some pictures of it with the old digital cameras. I really like the picture in the top left from the Sony Mavica camera. I just wish the G wasn't cut off on the left there in the GameStop logo. Now, this was something that I was sad to see. This big empty spot here at one time was a JCPenney home store, but most recently it was a giant hobby store that had RC car tracks in it, and it was a really fun place just to hang out in, and it just recently closed. I do think it's interesting that they turned the empty windows into advertisements for the places in the food court. I kind of want one of those giant pizza rafts. Do you see what I mean though about it feeling like a dead mall down here? Kind of everything past the Sears is very empty. I think this is where the highest concentration of empty storefronts are. The weird sword and knife shop is adding to the dead mall vibe over here. This King snack store is basically a gas station convenience store inside the mall. It sells all of the same stuff. And here's a shot of the empty Sears from the first floor. This is the Sears that I probably went to the most as a kid, and I have really fond memories of playing Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis over at the Funtronics counter. I like these pictures. Again, the one in the top left is from the Sony Mavica floppy disk camera, and the bottom right is from the AOL Digicam. As you head down from this end of the mall towards the middle, you start to see it look more like a mall that's doing okay. There's less empty storefronts, and there's national chains like that Claire's there. The one empty store that you do see there on the right was a Journey's Kids shoe store. There are some independent stores down here as well, like that Imagine Your Designs company. I think they do t-shirt design there. But you'll notice now we're getting towards the center of the mall, and there's actually groups of people walking around and milling about. That's one of the things that I've always kind of found interesting about this mall is on one side you can feel like you're in a dead mall, and then just a minute walk over and it feels like a mall that's doing fine and actually has people in it and stores that you recognize. There is some new stores down here as well. For example, this Addicted to Toys store that sells like retro and vintage toys. That wasn't here the last time I was here. And here's the cheap toy and plushie kiosk that every mall seems to have, and wow, did the AOL Digicam screw that picture up. That's the problem with that camera though. It's actually a pretty terrible camera, and I can't believe it's so much worse than the camera from a few years before it. I think it was just a quick, easy cash grab from America Online, and I think mostly senior citizens bought those cameras because they were kind of marketed as an easy-to-use digital camera. I wish smell-o-vision was a thing so you could smell that Cinnabon, because it smelled fantastic walking by it. Here's the center of the mall, and right up on the second floor to the right is where the food court is, and here's the JCPenney, which is another original anchor to the mall. Now, that picture in the top left from the Sony camera is probably one of my favorite pictures that I've taken with that camera. I love the reflection of the JCPenney logo in the tile. Next to the JCPenney are two what passes for arcades now in the mall, and I think it's interesting that they're right next to each other because I believe they're owned by different people. Both digital cameras had a hard time taking pictures of these. I took several pictures, and these were the two best that I got. Here's a look inside one of the arcades. And yeah, it's just a lot of, quote, skill-based games and a couple of actual arcade games. The picture there in the top left is one of my favorite pictures that I've taken during this trip. I actually like the picture from the AOL camera as well, even though it is blurry. Now here's something new coming to this mall. This is a Miniso, which is similar to like Daiso or Tesso Life, which are stores that I've covered on this channel, and that store is actually now open. Let's take a trip up the elevator. I think malls are one of the few places that you can still find glass elevators like this. In the video that I did almost 6 years ago, I said that I felt like this mall was starting to become a dying mall and may become a dead mall. And while it doesn't look like it's doing great right now, it seems like it is doing better. That last video that I did covering this place was also filmed on a late Sunday afternoon in November during holiday shopping season. And I think the mall's actually busier in this video, especially towards the center of the mall. Something I've always liked about the design of this mall is that it's just kind of one big curve, so you really can't see from one end to the other, so as you're walking through it, it almost makes it seem kind of endless. And I also love how much sunlight is let into this mall by all the skylights and windows. But you can see what I mean, there's actually some people down there. Again, it's not super busy, but it looks better than it did 6 years ago. And here's the food court, and of course the Chick-fil-A there on the left is closed because it's a Sunday. But there's actually some new stuff in here as well, like that Steak One sandwich shop. And for once, there's actually not any empty storefronts in this food court. I do miss what was here. This used to be a pocket change arcade years ago. Let's head outside now to the mall's courtyard, and we'll take a trip down this outdoor elevator that I don't think anybody uses. I've never seen anybody use it, and I always am curious if it's even going to work when I go to use it every time I'm here. The bad thing about this elevator is that it is not air conditioned, so when this was filmed it was about 105 degrees outside, and it felt like it was about 130 degrees inside this elevator. Thankfully, it's just a quick one-floor trip. I'm not sure if a lot of people even know that this elevator is here. It's in a big column that seems like it's just decorative in the courtyard. When I was a kid, there was a big fountain in the middle here, and unfortunately it's gone, but there are fountains in the back. So at least there's still some sort of water feature here, but they're not nearly as good as the old fountain. Now here's the rest of the pictures that I took with the old cameras during this trip. These first set are from the Sony camera. I love the picture of the empty Sears there down in the bottom left. And these are the rest of the pictures I took with the AOL Digicam, and now you're seeing them at their actual size and resolution, and their postage stamp size. That camera is just awful. I do love messing around with old digital cameras, but that is probably my least favorite one that I own. I am probably going to do a video on my second channel though, covering it more in depth, because I do own it complete in box, and it is kind of interesting how it works as far as getting the pictures off of it and everything, so I'll put a link to my second channel down in the description, and it should pop up on the screen as well. As for the mall, I am pleasantly surprised that it does seem to be doing better than it was 6 years ago. I was really worried about it back then. It's not doing great now, but it seems to be improving. There is a lot of new apartments being built right around this mall as well, so we'll have to see if that helps improve things. Now, before we head out of here, let's take a closer look at the fountain. You know that we're not going to leave a mall with a fountain without doing fountain cam. This fountain area actually doubles as a stage as well, though I've never seen any musical performances here. But let's take a closer look. It was so hot out that even just dunking my hand in the water felt good. I hope you've enjoyed this update video on Superstition Springs Center. As always, everyone, thanks for watching. Want to see your name here? Head on over to patreon.com/retailarchaeology to find out how you can help support the channel. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my update video on Superstition Springs Center. If you enjoyed this Sunday afternoon trip to the mall, please make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also make sure to follow at the social media links down there because that's the best way to keep up with what's going on with the Retail Archaeology channel.